55 years old, 17 years into marriage. My relationship with my wife had been distant for a long time, and my life felt like barren soil. Then one day the sound came from upstairs, sounds of intense lovemaking filtering through the poorly sound-proofed ceiling. Long dormant desires began to stir. To be honest, every time I heard those sounds, I felt a strong sexual arousal I hadn't felt in a long time. What did the woman behind those sounds look like? Curiosity soon turned into a dangerous desire. I began to lose myself in strange fantasies. If her husband couldn't satisfy her, could I be the one to satisfy her completely? And in my conversation with her, I received an even greater shock. She whispered to me, "Actually, when I was with my husband, I imagined you were listening from downstairs." That excited me even more. Her confession made my heart race like crazy. Eventually, we met and had a passionate affair in the bedroom directly above our master bedroom, where my wife was asleep. Making love to another woman, while knowing my wife was just through the ceiling, right below us. That thrill of the forbidden came to me as an immense pleasure. I became addicted to the dangerous excitement rather than the guilt. What do you think of this dangerous relationship? If you are curious, subscribing and liking before the video starts would be a huge help to me. I am Lee Jun-yik. I am 55 this year, an ordinary head of the household who has been married for 20 years. The word ordinary, looking back at my age, it is truly ambiguous. Financially, the small publishing house I run with my wife is well established, so we live without major worries. My wife is 53. Our daughter moved out years ago, and now it's just the two of us living in an old apartment, Unit 925 in Sujidong. We moved here as newlyweds and have lived here ever since. Sometimes my wife asks, "Honey, since our daughter has moved out, shall we move to a new apartment?" But I find this space familiar and comfortable. I've grown attached to it, and above all, I have a personality that doesn't like changing what I'm used to. We are living decently, just like others, without any major problems. But there is a void that the word ordinary can no longer fill. Though we have lived as a married couple for 20 years, we lost the meaning of being anything more than family a long time ago. Truthfully, it has been so long since my wife and I had a physical relationship that I can't even remember when it was. When our daughter was young, we had excuses like being busy or having an uncomfortable bed, but now it's a total estrangement that doesn't even require excuses. That doesn't mean I don't love my wife. She is the most comfortable person to me, a life partner and a colleague I share my life with. But the relationship between a man and a woman, the heated emotions, the desire for one another, such things already feel like a story from long ago. Time just flowed on in a way where we became accustomed to each other and indifferent as well. I go to the publishing house every morning, and my wife does housework or sometimes helps with my work. In the evening, we watch TV and then go to our respective beds. We no longer touch each other's bodies or say we love one another. It is simply peaceful. I often think this peace might be the most cruel form of something called boredom. Of course, I know it too, that such distance might be common for a couple in their mid-50s, married for 20 years. However, this emptiness, suppressing the instinctive longing as a man, was not easy. I was just burying myself in dulled emotions Then one day it happened. Our apartment building, an old walk-up style, always had issues with noise between floors, and it had the fatal flaw of poor soundproofing. In particular, the sounds from Unit 1, the Inn and 2, directly above our bedroom, began to awaken a man's emotions I had suppressed, something long since put to sleep. Noise between floors is a structural problem in our apartment. Even though it's a walk-up, the soundproofing is particularly weak. Especially the master bedroom ceiling. It echoes if the floor above makes even a slightly loud noise. We always lived carefully because we didn't want to have bad blood with neighbors over noise issues. The upstairs neighbors were probably the same, at least until they moved in, and to be precise, it was about a month after a new couple moved into Unit 1002. It was a weekend night. My wife and I were lying side by side in bed at a late hour, trying to get some sleep as usual. On a night that should have been peaceful, a dull yet rhythmic sound suddenly started to be heard from above. At first I thought they were moving furniture or building something or building. But not a few minutes later I could identify exactly what that sound was. It was the sound of them making love intensely, with the low rising moans of a woman and the dull creaking of a bed moving in rhythm drifted straight down through our bedroom ceiling. I froze in an instant. I never imagined I would hear sounds like this at my age, let alone in my bedroom with my wife lying right next to me. My face burned hot without me even realizing it. At first I tried to pretend I didn't know. I closed my eyes tight, pretending not to hear it, pretending to be asleep. But it was too intense. It wasn't a sound that would end quietly. It was the sound of a hot and passionate night, as if they had forgotten everything in the world. I told you it's been a long time since my wife and I shared a bed. To me, living such a dry life, the sounds coming from upstairs were a shock. At the same time, it was an intense sexual stimulus I had forgotten about. I opened my eyes and looked to my side. My wife was lying perfectly still, whether she was already asleep or, like me, just pretending not to hear it, out of embarrassment. As her moans and the rhythmic thuds continued, my heart began to race. At 55, the fact that I was getting excited listening to another couple's intimacy was embarrassing and pathetic, but it was also a feeling I hadn't felt in a long time. It was the instinct of a man whose desires had long been suppressed. In the end, I couldn't fall asleep easily that night thanks to the rowdy sounds upstairs. Those sounds were not just mere noise. They felt like a rhythm of life that had been missing from my dry existence. From that day on, I found myself waiting for those sounds. Since that night, I fell into a strange addiction. Every time I heard the sounds from upstairs, I felt an inexplicable excitement. To be honest, I was aroused while listening to them, too. It had been such a long time. At my age, finding it pathetic to be stimulated by someone else's sex life, I still couldn't stop. I told you it's been a while since my wife and I grew distant. I thought my instincts as a man were completely dormant, but the intense moaning and heavy thuds from upstairs woke something up inside me. Way desire seat aside me. I felt myself reacting down there. My body, which hadn't been used in so long, was reacting. I now started waiting for the weekends to arrive. Weekdays were quiet. Although I was busy running my publishing house, a corner of my heart was always filled with the anticipation of those weekend sounds, a desire for a kind of secret catharsis. I listened to those sounds for 4 weekends, like that, like that. It was always the same pattern. Weekdays were quiet, and weekends were loud. Every time I heard those sounds, my heart would pound and it felt like my long-lost vitality was coming back to life. But at the same time, I began to have strange fantasies. What would that woman look like? It wasn't just curiosity about a noisy neighbor. It didn't take long for curiosity to turn into desire. What kind of appearance would a woman who makes those sounds have? Is she as hot and passionate as those intense sounds suggest? Or, contrary to expectations, is she someone with a hidden charm who looks calm and refined? As I listened to the sounds, I would often try to picture her in my mind. In my imagination, she took shape as an increasingly beautiful and attractive woman. That imagination excited me even more. And then a bolder idea came to mind. Could I satisfy her better if it were me? There was definitely a sense of longing mixed into her moans. A feeling of dissatisfaction. It was a voice that seemed to wish for more to be filled. I've always been on the larger and stronger side. My younger partners used to love that about me, I started to feel a strange sense of confidence in my masculine abilities which I hadn't used in a long time. I also felt pathetic for having such curiosity and fantasies at my age. But I wanted to see her so badly. I was aroused hearing those sounds, and I felt that if I knew what she looked like, it would be even more exciting the next time I heard them. My desire was already transcending reason and morality. Unit 1002, the floor above. I usually just exchanged like greetings with people in the building at the elevator. I didn't have any deep interactions with neighbors. But Unit 1002 was different. Their sounds came through so clearly, as if they were just on the other side of our bedroom wall. So I was seized by an intense impulse to see the person behind those sounds in reality. The obsession to see her in person kept growing. I wanted to see how different or how consistent the imaginary image I had every time I heard those sounds was from reality. I thought maybe I could break free from this strange addiction once I saw her face. I felt pathetic for doing this at my age, but I couldn't stop. Every morning, I would slightly delay going to work or stop by home during lunch to loiter in front of Unit 1002. But the odds of me living in Unit 902, randomly running into her, living in Unit 1002, weren't very high. Had a month passed like that, I was about to give up and return to my daily routine because lurking in front of the neighbor's door made me look like a real creep. One afternoon, I realized I'd left important documents at the publishing house, so I rushed home and was heading back out. I was waiting for the elevator, waiting for the doors to open. That's when I heard the sound of the door to Unit 1002 opening. I felt my heart pounding. What am I doing right now? I had that thought, but my body was already reacting. Even just seeing the back of the woman standing by the elevator, I knew. It was her. Her silhouette alone was beautiful. Long straight hair and a neat yet sophisticated outfit said. Perhaps sensing my presence, she slowly turned toward me. And she greeted me first. Oh, hello. Nice to meet you. I just moved into Unit 1002. Her voice was calm. It was a quiet, gentle voice that didn't match those intense moans from the weekend nights at all. I replied as naturally as I could. Hello? It's nice to meet you. I'm in 902. Up close she was truly beautiful. She wasn't the image I had imagined from those intense sounds. She was very calm, neat, and had a clean impression. It was quite the twist. The elevator arrived, and we got on together. Being alone in that tight space created a strange tension. I couldn't believe this woman was the source of that noise. Do you live here with your husband? I gathered my courage and asked first. Yes. He works out of town and only comes up on weekends. She smiled at me. I was completely captivated by that smile. The fact that the sounds I heard on weekends came from this beautiful woman was a huge shock to me. Oh, so you must be alone during the weekdays, huh? Yes, I've gotten used to it. What do you do for a living? Do you work at a company? I kept the conversation going. I wanted to know more about her. Oh, I don't commute to an office. I run a small handicraft workshop near the local shops. I mostly spend my time there during the week. A handicraft workshop. It suited her calm and neat appearance so well. We arrived on the first floor and went our separate ways. She headed toward the shops and I toward my publishing office, but my mind was filled entirely with her face. I couldn't sleep that night. Now that I knew her face, my heart raced at the thought that I would picture her beautiful face when I heard those sounds next weekend. It was a powerful attraction, beyond simple curiosity. The words she said when we met at the elevator kept looping in my head. My husband works out of town and only comes up on weekends. The fact that she is alone in 1002 during the week. And the fact that those intense sounds only happen on weekend nights. All of this felt like some sort of fateful signal to me. Does her husband work for a construction company or something? Since she said he works at provincial sites, it was clear she spent her weekdays in loneliness. And that loneliness must be released in an explosive form on weekend nights. I couldn't continue being a weirdo lurking in front of her door anymore. I needed to create a way to approach her naturally and keep seeing her. The fact that she ran a handicraft workshop was the perfect opportunity for me. A few days later, I made an excuse to step away from work and went to find her workshop. I told my wife I had a meeting with a client. Like Park Young-soo in the original story who ran a laundry, I wasn't used to lying to my wife, but I felt a strange thrill when it came to this. When it came to this. Her workshop was not far away. Located on the first floor of a small commercial building, the workshop had the feel of an atelier. I could see her through the glass window. Instead of arranging flowers, this time she was delicately crafting small pieces of wood or leather. The sight of her concentrating under the sunlight was truly like a painting. I stopped for a moment to think, what excuse should I use to go in? I'm a man in his 50s with no interest in handicrafts, but then a good idea popped into my head. That's it. I'll pretend to buy a gift for my wife. It's not our anniversary or any special day, but buying a gift for my wife wouldn't be strange. Our relationship is distant anyway, but we've been maintaining the appearance of a peaceful couple on the outside. I took a deep breath and opened the workshop door. With the sound of a jingling bell, the subtle scent of wood and leather, mixed with her own fragrance, brushed past my nose. "Welcome." She looked up, and when she saw me, she wore a slightly surprised expression. Mr. Lee Junhyuk from 9025. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction that she remembered my name. "Hello. I was looking for a gift for my wife. I don't know much about handicrafts. Do you have any recommendations to..." I tried my best to act as calm and natural as possible. I wandered around her, pretending to look around the workshop. "Oh, does your wife have a particular style she likes?" "We have bags, accessories, and even ceramics." She continued to explain calmly, like a professional. That sight captivated me once again. To think that the woman behind those heated groans on the weekend leads such a neat and intellectual life on weekdays, this extreme contrast drew me in even more. I chose a small leather pouch that she recommended. I tried to keep the conversation going even as I made the payment. "I guess you run this workshop by yourself." "That's impressive." "Yes. I mostly work alone on weekdays. My husband comes on weekends, but he has no talent for this kind of thing." "Huh?" She laughed brightly. That laugh felt like something else entirely to me. The woman on the weekend and the woman on the weekday were the same person, yet it seemed like she was living two completely different lives. It seemed like she filled her loneliness with art on weekdays and tried to fill it through her relationship with her husband on weekends. The encounter had begun. Now I had to keep this connection going. I could keep visiting under the guise of being a customer. The feelings I held for her had already far surpassed simple neighborly goodwill. They were dangerous desires. Even after that, I continued to visit her studio every few days. At first, I made excuses, buying small items, or pretending to order business card holders for my publishing house. She treated me like a regular customer, but every time we met, I couldn't help but recall her beautiful face from the elevator and those heated moans I heard on the weekends. I didn't want to keep this relationship as just a customer and a shop owner. I wanted to create a secret that existed only between the two of us. I had a hunch that this secret would make our relationship special and dangerous. One afternoon, when there were no other customers in the studio, she was wrapping the leather bookmark I had ordered, and I stood beside her workbench. In a moment of silence, I gathered my courage and spoke up. Actually, she looked up. Yes. Her voice was still calm and soft. I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding wildly because I knew exactly what I was about to say. That while my wife was home, she was making love to another woman through that wall. No, I hadn't made love to her yet, but it was the moment I would confirm to her that I was listening to those sounds. Our apartment is a bit old, so the soundproofing isn't very good, especially between Unit 902 and 1002, particularly near the master bed. Her hands stopped. I could see the wrapping paper she was holding trembling slightly. Her eyes wavered as if she hadn't expected me to say such a thing. I know you have a great relationship with your spouse, but the sounds carry quite a bit on weekend nights. I spoke as carefully as I could, but in a way that hit the nail on the head. Her face turned bright red in an instant. as if all the blood in her body had rushed to her face. I watched her panic clearly. She couldn't finish her sentence. I really didn't know. I'm so sorry. Her voice trembled and her eyes were filled with embarrassment and shame. It's all right. I just thought you might not have known, so I wanted to let you know. It's not that it's a huge inconvenience, rather. No, it's fine. I'm so ashamed. I'm sorry. I'll be more careful from now on. With her head bowed, she hurried to finish the wrapping. I could see her hands shaking slightly. Instead of feeling sorry, I felt a strange, inexplicable excitement and pleasure. The fact that I had just shared my most intimate secret with this beautiful woman and that I had made her so flustered gave me a thrilling rush. I felt a strange sense of guilt, yet at the same time, a pleasure as if I were crossing a forbidden line. And in that moment, I realized I was feeling an even stronger attraction to her, because even her flustered expression felt alluring to me. I also began to have the expectation that this would create a special bond between her and me. We were no longer just simple neighbors. I looked at her and said, "Don't worry too much about it. I was just letting you know." When I left the shop carrying the bouquet, I felt like a winner. It felt as if a secret, intense sense of complicity had formed between us that no one else knew about. Her flushed face and trembling hands stayed in my mind, stimulating me. Since that day when I mentioned the soundproofing issue and she became extremely flustered, a strange air flowed between us. Whenever she saw me, she looked shy, yet carried a gaze that seemed to hold some kind of expectation. I could not let this opportunity slip away. A few days later, I visited her workshop again. This time, I brought a cup of coffee and handed it to her. "You seem to have a lot of work lately. Why don't you take a short break?" "There's a nice cafe nearby," she hesitated for a moment, but eventually accepted my suggestion. "Shall we? There are no customers, and I did want to take a short break." We hung a back soon sign on the workshop door and headed to the cafe together. I sat across from her and drank my coffee. At first, we only exchanged mundane small talk about the weather and the workshop. But I wanted to have a deeper conversation. I intentionally wanted to get closer to her. I revealed my inner thoughts first. I'll be honest with you. I have a lot on my mind these days. About my married life. You too? She looked at me, fidgeting with her coffee cup. We've lived together for 17 years, but at some point it feels like we've just become family. Not like a husband and wife, but just like colleagues, raising kids together. I spoke honestly. I revealed my dry reality just as it was. "So that's what you're thinking?" She answered cautiously. "I thought you might feel similarly." I looked at her straight in the eyes. "Your husband only comes on the weekends, right? You're alone for the whole week. Don't you get lonely on the weekdays?" Honestly, my questions became increasingly direct. She remained silent for a long time. It must have been a difficult question to answer. But without this honesty, we would have remained just ordinary neighbors forever. And finally, she gave a small nod. "I am lonely." No. Finally, she admitted it. I didn't let this chance slip by. I asked even more boldly, "And how is your sex life?" Her face turned bright red. That look of embarrassment was quite evident. I'm sorry. Was I being too direct? But when I mentioned the soundproofing issue last time, your face turned so red, and I was aroused while listening to you. It had been a long time for me. I didn't avoid her gaze and spoke honestly about those feelings. This honesty was my weakness, but also the only weapon to break her taboo. She remained silent for a long time. Then, after taking a small sip of coffee, she finally opened her mouth. I'll tell you first, last. My husband and I don't really match well. To be precise, I could see her hands trembling. I try harder. I make sounds and try to lead things intensely, but there's a limit. So that's why it was so loud. She lowered her head. So, I thought, you were listening. Perhaps she couldn't finish her sentence and bit her lip. My heart was pounding. Her confession was far more shocking than I had imagined. Knowing you were listening made me even more aroused. She whispered. I felt like my heart was going to explode. This confession was an intense signal toward me beyond simple marital dissatisfaction. This honesty became the decisive turning point for our relationship. Our relationship was now placed on a dangerous consensus, sharing each other's loneliness and desires beyond just being neighbors. That conversation at the cafe was a turning point in my life. Her confession was shocking, but at the same time, it gave me immense stimulation and courage. Now I became the only person to share her most intimate secrets. She continued to speak quietly, with her head down. To be honest, my sex life with my husband has been unsatisfying. My husband travels for work often, so he only comes home on weekends, but even when we meet, after a long time, he doesn't last 10 minutes. There's barely any foreplay, even though I want more. Her voice was filled with deep loneliness and longing. So, from some point on, I started making sounds on purpose. She caught her breath. I think I wanted to express what my husband couldn't satisfy, even if just through sound. My craving, that is. I listened to her confession with bated breath. But when you asked me to be careful because of the soundproofing, I was so embarrassed, yet on the other hand, I felt strange. The fact that you were listening to those sounds from the unit below. She looked at me slowly. Her eyes were shy, yet held the same burning desire I felt when I had heard her sounds before. Yes. I thought you were listening. And imagining that those sounds were exciting you, I thought of you, even while I was with my husband. My heart began to race. This confession was beyond the boldest imagination I had ever conceived. It meant she was substituting me even during intimacy with her husband, finding sexual arousal in the taboo that a man downstairs was listening. Thinking you were listening made me even more aroused. I'm sorry. Her voice trembled, but her honesty completely captivated me. I took her hand. Her hand was warm and soft. Your sounds and your longing were transmitted to me as well. I was curious about you too, and lost for words. I simply nodded as I thought of you. She looked into my eyes and said, "You were just like me." It felt as if we had become fated accomplices, sharing each other's unhappiness, loneliness, and suppressed desires. This honest conversation tore down all the moral and physical barriers between us. Her confession felt like a silent invitation that I could satisfy her. "I think I can give you what you want, let you want." I spoke boldly before I knew it. Her eyes wavered, but she did not refuse. Instead, her gaze deepened with desire. After the conversation at the cafe, I felt no need to hesitate. Her confession was a silent request for me to prove my abilities. I had a strong confidence that I could fulfill her loneliness and desire. I looked at her and said, "I think I can give you what you want, what I want." I felt like I was going crazy while listening to your sounds. "I think I can satisfy you as much as you want, want." "Can you really?" Her expression changed. Her eyes were filled with longing. "It's bigger and stronger than anything you've experienced with your husband. And I can go for a long time," I said daringly. She bit her lip. "I can't believe it. But I am curious about you, to see if you can really satisfy me." I could no longer control these emotions. That night, making an excuse to my wife that I was late because of work at the publishing house, I headed upstairs. My heart was pounding wildly. Walking down the hallway to her door, I felt as if I were entering a forbidden sanctuary. I knew that if I opened that door and stepped inside, my life would cross an irreversible line. But I couldn't stop. I was so curious about her, and I wanted her so much. I rang the doorbell. Ding dong. A moment later, the door opened. It was her. On a weekday when her husband was away, she was wearing a comfortable dress. Her hair was damp from a shower, and she smelled of a faint perfume. "Oh, so early?" She looked surprised, but her expression was filled with anticipation and excitement. "Are you free for a moment?" I asked, and she opened the door wide and said, in a soft voice, "Come on in." I stepped into the unit upstairs. The layout was a mirror image of my place, but with her touch the home felt cozy and delicate. We stood in the living room. A strange tension filled the air. "Would you like some wine?" she asked. "Yes, I'd love some." As we drank the wine, we confirmed each other's desires once again. Honestly, this is my first time. Since I got married, I've never thought about another man besides my husband. She said in a trembling voice. "Me neither," I replied. "But after seeing you, everything changed. I felt like I was going crazy listening to you, and I don't regret thinking of you while I was with my husband." She said, "Honestly, I was curious about you. Whether you could really satisfy the craving that my husband can't." She finally revealed her most honest feelings. What she wanted wasn't love, but the physical satisfaction that was left unfulfilled. And I was brimming with confidence that I could provide exactly that for her. "How is your husband, Ida? Did you say he lasts a long time?" I asked. "I told you already. He's weak. He finishes in less than 10 minutes. He barely has any drive. What about you?" Her eyes seemed to be devouring my body already. As for me, I'm on the bigger side. I'm confident. I can go for a long time too. How long? An hour easily. I said boldly. Her eyes shook violently. I can't believe it. Can you show me? I stepped closer to her. She, too, no longer hesitated and accepted me. Our faces grew closer, and our breathing became ragged. No more words were needed now. We confirmed that we met as man and woman to fulfill each other's incompleteness. There was no more time to hesitate. We embraced each other and shared a passionate kiss. It was cautious at first, but soon our tongues tangled greedily and hotly as if to quench our long-held thirst. Her lips were sweet, and I wanted everything of hers. Shall we go to the room? She said, breathless. Yes. We headed to the guest bedroom, Iyagiga. It was the space just above our master bedroom, separated only by a wall. That fact gave me a tremendous forbidden thrill. The thought that my wife might be downstairs, watching TV or falling asleep. That thought drove me even crazier. I stood by the bed. She slowly took off her dress. With only her skin left, she was far more beautiful and alluring than I had imagined. She had a toned, delicate body without a single ounce of fat. You're beautiful, I said. She began to undo my shirt buttons. One by one, slowly, we sat on the bed together. I kissed her shoulders and the nape of her neck. Every time our skin touched, she let out a small moan. It's good. Keep going. Her voice was already pleading. I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to give her all the foreplay she said she never got from her husband. I adored her body with my lips, feeling each of her reactions as I slowly moved down. Her body grew hotter and hotter. Her breathing became ragged, and I could feel her body trembling slightly. I want it now. Please, she said as if begging. I slowly moved on top of her. We locked eyes. And for a moment, forgetting that my wife was downstairs, I slowly became one with her. Ah? Her moan burst out. I waited until she adjusted. It's okay now. You can move, she whispered. I started to move slowly, as if pouring out everything I had, matching her rhythm. It's good. It feels so good. Her moans grew louder. They were much more genuine and satisfying sounds than those intense ones I'd heard downstairs. I don't know how much time passed. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. She said in a voice mixed with surprise and joy. It's still going on. My husband would have finished already, I told you. I held her tighter, saying I last a long time. We continued. She cried out loud every time she reached the peak. It was as if all the suppressed emotions were bursting out. It's so good. You are truly amazing. She finally reached complete satisfaction, and I saw tears flowing from her eyes. They were tears of joy. I can't believe it. It's my first time. She burst into tears, having been satisfied to such a degree. I held her in my arms. I was intoxicated by the thrill of proving my masculinity and the sense of accomplishment from giving her true satisfaction. We lay there for a long while, soaked in sweat. That room was separated from our master bedroom by just a single wall. After that passionate encounter, I was completely drawn to her, and she was exactly the same. The fact that she found total fulfillment in me maximized my masculine self-esteem. As promised, we met every weekday evening. I would tell my wife that my meeting with a publishing client ran long. I would make excuses like having dinner with an old friend and leave the house. My wife let me go without much suspicion. We mainly met in the master bedroom of the apartment above ours around 7 or 8 p.m. Every time we shared love, her moans grew louder and louder. I too lost my reason and became a male driven purely by instinct. We shared passionate love every time, and her body accepted everything of mine. Then one day, when I returned home after our encounter, my wife called to me while watching TV in the living room. "Honey, I heard it again just a little while ago today." "What?" I asked as naturally as I could. "The noise from upstairs. It's been strange in the evenings lately. They used to be like that only on weekends, but now it's weekdays too, starting from early in the evening." I felt my heart sink to the floor. My wife had been listening to our sounds and... "Oh, really? That's intense. I guess they must be young. They must have a good relationship." I tried hard to hide my cold sweat and spoke nonchalantly. "It's not just good, it seems a bit excessive." My wife sighed, wondering why this soundproofing was so poor. I couldn't answer. A wave of guilt washed over me. What on earth am I doing right now? To think that my wife was right downstairs and she was listening to my sounds. Is this too dangerous? But that guilt was only momentary. What followed was a strange sense of pleasure. The fact that I was making love to another woman while my wife was home just beyond the wall right upstairs, and that my wife was listening to those sounds. This incredibly dangerous situation excited me to the extreme. Have I lost my mind? I asked myself, but I couldn't deny it. This dangerous and thrilling forbidden sensation made me even more addicted to this affair. The next morning, my wife spoke to me again. "Honey, don't you think we should say something to the people upstairs? It's too much that they're at it every single evening, lately. I stopped my wife. Let's just leave that be. There's no need to make things awkward with the neighbors. It's fine. Let's just bear with it a little longer." Of course, I had a real reason for it. It was because I couldn't stop those sounds. Every time I met her, I would whisper to her, "Can you make it loud again today? My wife might be listening." She knew I enjoyed the danger, and sometimes she would moan, even louder, on purpose. "You have that kind of haste?" She asked with surprised eyes, but soon she was enjoying that thrill with me. We were walking a dangerous tightrope between not getting caught by my wife and wanting to be caught. This relationship had become more than just physical satisfaction. It was a dangerous psychological game. When I spent heated moments with her in her bedroom on weeknights, I felt like I had the world. But this thrilling deviation turned into hellish torment as the weekend approached. That was when her husband would come up from the countryside. We sighed. It was a Saturday night. I went into our bedroom early and lay down. My wife was watching a drama in the living room. I didn't sleep, I just listened intently. Time passed and it was past 11 p.m. Then I heard it, the sound coming from the ceiling above, the bed creaking, and a woman's moan. It was her moan, naughty. I gritted my teeth. Jealousy felt like it was tearing my chest apart. The woman I held and satisfied every night was with that man at this very moment, yet she's gonna be in his arms tonight. Just thinking about it made my blood boil. The sounds were intense. The same sounds I used to hear from downstairs. But the fact that I was no longer the one causing them drove me insane. After doing that with me every day, she was doing it like that. I was furious. I felt terrible. I want revenge. A non-sexual urge to make her feel as bad as I did took over. I walked out to the living room. My wife was focused on the TV. Honey, I called out to my wife. My wife turned around. I approached my wife and pulled her into an embrace. Oh my, what's gotten into you? My wife asked in surprise, but I didn't answer. I just kissed her. It had been a long time. I want to be with you tonight. How long has it actually been? My wife couldn't hide her joy and smiled and smiled. We went into the bedroom. We sat on the bed. I pulled my wife close. But in my heart there was no love or desire for my wife. There was only the desire to take revenge on her upstairs. You're listening right now, aren't you? The sound of me with my wife. I began to make love to my wife. My wife was quickly aroused by our long overdue intimacy. Honey, it feels good. My wife moaned. Make some noise. I said suddenly. What? Why all of a sudden? Do you just want to hear it? Make the sound louder. I moved even more intensely. I have to let her hear this. My wife let out a small sound. Louder, honey. I said it as if I were forcing her. Even with my wife, I demanded a level of intensity equal to hers. But my wife's moans were neither as loud nor as satisfying as hers. It didn't feel good at all. I actually felt worse. I didn't want to see my wife's face. Because it wasn't her. I closed my eyes and forced myself to imagine her as I moved. I eventually finished with my wife, but I was not satisfied at all. I only felt empty. My wife fell asleep with a happy expression, but I couldn't fall asleep. I kept thinking about her. Did she hear it? Did it bother her? Was she jealous? Thinking that way, my strange anger subsided, and I felt a bit better. Yeah, now you felt the same way. But at the same time, I felt a sense of futility about this unwholesome act. Why did I go this far? Am I really crazy? The weekend passed, and on Monday evening, I went to her studio. It was a weekday when my wife wasn't around, but I felt an inexplicable sense of anxiety. When we met at the front door, her expression wasn't as expectant or passionate as usual. There was a cold and complex emotion in her eyes, and did you happen to hear it over the weekend? She asked cautiously first. Yes. My sound? And you must have heard it too, right? My sound. I spoke honestly. Her face stiffened. Yes. I heard it. The sound of you with your wife. It really bothered me. It sounded like you were trying to take revenge on me. I had nothing to say, because it was the truth. But I thought I had to cover up these feelings to continue this relationship. We sat in her studio, on the bed where we had just been making love passionately. We sat, fully dressed, facing each other, in heavy tension. She suddenly looked straight at me and asked, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" "Yes." "Do you love me?" It was a sudden and deeply fundamental question. I held my breath. I couldn't answer. In the heat of this affair, the word love was a taboo that had never been brought up. Brought up. "I'm not sure. Tell me honestly." Her gaze did not waver. "Honestly, I don't know. I like you, and I'm happy when I'm with you. Your body is perfect and gives me complete satisfaction. I don't think I can live without you." But whether that's love or just desire, I hesitated and confessed honestly that it was curiosity at first, and then desire. And that even now I can't be sure if those feelings fall into the noble realm of love. She listened to me quietly, and she asked another question, one even sharper and more dangerous. "Then, can you leave your family and choose me?" The moment I heard this question, my mind raced. My wife of 17 years, my daughter, who I'm still responsible for, and my stable publishing business, could I abandon all of that to choose her? The answer hovered on the tip of my lips, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. No, I didn't love her. My relationship with her was merely a hot escape filling the voids in my life. Her beauty, our perfect physical chemistry, and the dangerous thrill. I loved all of that, but I didn't feel a love so passionate that I would destroy the foundation of my life for it. I hung my head. I can't answer that. I have a wife I've lived with for 17 years and a family. I don't think I love you enough to give everything up and choose you. She smiled bitterly, as if she had already expected my answer. I know that your feelings weren't love but physical desire, It's the same for me. To be honest, I liked your size, your performance, and your stamina. But that's not all there is to love, is it? We had no choice but to admit that our relationship was a transaction of loneliness and desire. In this moment, our relationship was filled with a cold realization of reality instead of hot passion. The moment I couldn't say I loved her or would leave my family, we had to coldly acknowledge that our relationship was a deviation. The feelings I had for her were never a devoted love. It was just a hot, dangerous oasis that arrived in my dry life. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for being honest, she said calmly. You too. Thank you for asking me that question. We didn't avoid each other's eyes. There was no more passion, but there was deep empathy and pity. Two people who shared each other's loneliness and tried to fill each other's voids. But we realized that it was a doomed relationship that could never last forever. I think we should stop here, she said first. I think so too. If we go any further, our respective families will be in too much danger. Especially knowing my wife could hear us, I became addicted to the thrill of being with you. It was so selfish. I was the same way. Sleeping with my husband while thinking of you. I was surprised by myself too. We have to stop before it's too late, before we head toward catastrophe. We acknowledged that our respective families were more important. This realistic judgment was far colder and heavier than our burning desires. Let's pause our relationship for a while. We need time to sort out our feelings. I proposed. Yes. I think that's the right thing to do. We should go back to our daily lives. As if nothing happened. But how could it be as if nothing happened? We shared the deepest and most secret parts of ourselves, but we quietly agreed right there. A tentative end to our relationship. I conveyed my sincere feelings to her one last time. Thanks to you, I felt many emotions I had forgotten. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Her eyes grew red, but she did not shed any tears. Me too. Because of you, I realized how much I longed to be fulfilled. But now I must fulfill that longing. In other ways, we shared our final embrace. It was a sad and lonely embrace, with all the intensity gone. We promised never to meet here in this main room again. I left her house. The sound of the door closing sounded like my heart breaking. I stood in front of my own front door again. Once I open this door, I have to go back to being Lee Jun-hyuk, a husband of 17 years, and a publishing company president. The passionate affair was over, and cold reality was waiting for me. A month has already passed since I tentatively ended things with her. But my life could not return to what it was before. I tried to be faithful to my wife. The evenings I used to spend roaming outside are now spent with my wife. We talk and watch TV together. My wife welcomes my sudden change but seems puzzled by it. However, my heart still lingers with her. On weekday evenings, I look up at the bedroom ceiling. What is she doing right now? Is she feeling lonely all by herself? Or has she forgotten me and is adapting to a new routine? Along with the curiosity, an intense longing wells up again. I told myself that what I felt for her wasn't love, but that physical desire did not fade easily. The complete satisfaction she gave me and the thrill of the forbidden were highly addictive. We are now separated by the physical distance of being on different floors. I could meet her by walking up just a few steps, but those stairs have become an insurmountable barrier of ethical taboo for me. Should I go up to her again? Every night, this question haunts me. She surely must have wanted me to. And the feelings I had for her were also a deep attraction that went beyond mere physical pleasure. After my wife falls asleep, I sit alone on the living room sofa, lost in deep thought. If I go to her again, we will resume that dangerous and intense relationship. But what would be the end of it? Destruction? The collapse of a family? No, I cannot abandon my wife and my family. My reason screams at me. I cannot tear down the life I've built over 17 years just because of simple physical desire. I am a head of a household who must protect his family. But whenever I hear even a small sound from the floor above, my heart starts racing again. That sound felt as if it were speaking to me saying it missed me, saying, I am currently wandering in this dilemma of conflict, unable to find any answer. If I try to protect my family, I miss her like crazy. But if I go to her, ethics and reality hold me back. This dilemma is eating me alive. What should I do? Should I just cut off all contact with her and try to forget her? Or should I continue our secret meetings at least on weekday evenings, when her husband is away? I still haven't found the answer. If anyone has struggled with a similar dilemma, or can offer wise life advice, I would like to hear your perspective. Everyone, thank you for listening to my story until the end. What do you think about this midlife crisis and forbidden love that I am going through? I am currently lost between ethical taboos and physical desire. In this situation, is it right for me to completely forget her to protect my family? Or is continuing this relationship cautiously, as we were honest with each other, a realistic alternative? I would be grateful if you could leave your sincere advice in the comments. Your opinions will likely be a great help in finding the path I should take moving forward. If you found today's story interesting, please make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story next. Thank you.